So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey so far, and I'm sure there's more to come.
Fantastic. That's an amazing um, insight for everybody and very inspirational for everyone watching you. Vicky, just want to clarify, a manager in England is actually someone who coaches the team, right?
Yeah, so I am the manager of the team, but I'm also, some managers are different. Some managers just manage from afar and let their assistant do the coaching. Um, but very much like Jurgen Klopp, I'm hands-on, I'm on the grass. I want to know what my players are doing, what they look like when they're sad, what they look like when they're happy, what they look like when they're performing well. And I want to be there making sure that I'm at them constantly so that they're raising their standards every day.
Fantastic. Can you tell us how you got into football as a young girl?
Yeah, so I think soon as I could walk, I wanted to play football. I've been brought up by my dad and my brothers, so I was in a male dominated household anyway. And I used to play football at primary school when I was, 4, 5, 6 years of age with the lads. I was part of the boys football team at early years at school, and then I went to high school, and then I found a girls football team which I joined. And there wasn't many girls football teams when I was younger, which is part of the reason why I wanted to make sure I grew the game in this country as much as I possibly could for females. I didn't mention before, but I spent 2 years coaching in America and playing in America. I think when I went out to the USA, it actually inspired me to see how big women's soccer was. And when I looked back home, women's football, it just wasn't as big. There wasn't as many female role models in our country. So when I come back to England, for me, it was about let's grow the game from the bottom in grassroots right the way up. And I worked with the LFC Foundation, growing women's participant in sport across Merseyside and Cheshire, as one of my goals that I wanted to do. And off the back of that, I got involved in elite sport, which is something that I'm most passionate about.
Excellent. Tell us, what characteristics do you look in when you're looking at bringing on someone into your main team?
I always think that you're not always going to get this right, because when you meet somebody for the first time, a player, I'm in the process now of recruiting players for next season. And a lot of my introductions now are on these calls. So it's always hard to be exactly on what type of person they are. But you ask around and you always want to know, are they a good person before you find out whether they're a good player? Because, you don't want to assign somebody who's going to be a mood hoover in your team, and not put the we first over the me. And I think that's really powerful. At Liverpool, we have such a good team football family that's focused around the we rather than the me. So I always want to know, yes, they may be talented, they may have some super strengths in certain areas of the game, but what are they like as a person? What do they look like when adversity goes against them? Some people can't deal with adversity and they crumble. Some people are resilient and can go, do you know what? I'm not going to let down. I'm going to keep fighting. So those are characteristics I think that myself and Jurgen look to recruit within both of our teams.
Fantastic. And especially in the times that we all are going through all over the world, it's so
Yeah.
important for people to be resilient and to be able to adjust and adapt to all sorts of situations. So nice to hear you speak of Jurgen as if he's just a buddy. For someone like me who's a hardcore Liverpool fan, that sounds really amazing that you are actually able to work with him at such close quarters. Can you tell us a little about how you incorporate the Liverpool training ideology into your women's team?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to travel on 4 of the men's pre-season tours. So I've travelled with Jurgen Klopp on his first ever pre-season tour out in America. It was the West Coast. We were in San Francisco, LA. We played Chelsea at the Rose Bowl. It was a fantastic for me 4 years ago to watch Jurgen and how he works. And to be honest, every single pre-season he's changed slightly and adapted to once he's understood the demands of the Premier League in England. And I watched them in pre-season out in Hong Kong. I've just been out we went to the last pre-season tour in America, in Boston. So for me, I've had a real good insight to how Jurgen and his backroom staff work. And on the last pre-season tour, me and Jurgen spent a lot of time together on panels discussing, and we share a lot of the same traits in terms of, you know, every single player is different. And although we say we want to treat every player the same, every person in the world has a different key to unlock their motivation. So what motivates you is different than what motivates me. And for a manager, it's so important that if you want to get to the player and get the player to play for you in a certain way, you have to unlock the player. And to unlock the player, you have to know how to motivate them. So that's something that me and Jurgen, we talk about a lot. We also talk about, you know, we want to be the players' friends, but we don't want to be their best friends, because sometime I'm going to have to shout at those players to pull, you know, get themselves, pull the socks up and work harder, and you know, sometimes criticize them in a way to make them better. And if you act as their best friends, then obviously the respect and the lines blurred. So yes, I'm friendly, I'm approachable, I have an open door policy, but the players know where the line is. And I think that's so important for a manager.
Even though you're so young, Vicky, is that does that hinder your showing that you are a strict, tough manager in spite of your young age? Do you manage?
I think I don't shout often, but when I do, the players know they've upset me. I think if you always scream and scream and scream at your players, it becomes ineffective. So I remember West Ham, it was my birthday actually, and we lost 4-2. And I remember my halftime team talk, I absolutely laid into every player. And I haven't done that all season, but I knew for a fact they were like, okay, we've really, and they were so apologetic and they wanted to put things right straight away. But I think if you it's constantly like that, then it loses its effect. And I pick my moments, and they know when they've annoyed me if the standard's not good enough. I think with my age, I've certainly got a lot more to learn, a lot more to learn. I think every manager, it doesn't matter what age you are, I think Jurgen will stay the same. He'll have loads that he'll want to learn. And even some of the managers, the greatest ones that we know in the Premier League, like Alex Ferguson, will say that there's always loads that you can learn. You're never a finished book as a coach. So for me, I obsess of looking at the modern ways of playing, studying the women's game at the highest level, making sure I know all the top female players across the world, not just in the UK and in all the other leagues. And I never take my foot off the gas. I think in this lockdown period, I think I was working, I think it was 56 days straight. I forgot to have a day off for myself. That's from communicating with my players, from studying, from looking at other footage of oppositions. So I think when you become a professional manager, that becomes your life, and you do get obsessive over it. One of the things I will say is it's so important that when you do get in the spotlight, that you do find some time for yourself. And I'm assessing that at the moment, trying to find a little bit of time for myself to escape football, but that is a difficult task.
It is. You can go off on leave immediately after this webinar, Vicky.
I've got a yoga session with the girls after this.
Yes, you did mention that. That's amazing. So what all are you doing with your women's team during the lockdown? Virtually, online?
Yeah, so everything has to be online because we're all social distancing and staying in lockdown. So the girls have to report into our medical team every morning. We've got an app. It reports their medical well-being, so how they slept, their stress levels, how they're eating, all these things that we need to keep a close eye on to check in that they're mentally in a good place and physically in a good place. And then we've been doing core sessions. We've been doing yoga sessions. We've had team cook-offs. So one of our players was the chef, and we all had to try and make I can't remember what we made now, but anyway, we had
cupcakes.
Oh, that was a bake-off, yeah. So we've done a bake-off. So we've made cupcakes and we had a competition. I think because football is a team sport, you have to find ways to keep your team morale together. And obviously we're all together in a training ground, but when we're in our homes, it's how do I keep my team from laughing, joking, having banter, as us English people say. And the way we did that is we've had quizzes, we played bingo, we've cooked together, we've done yoga sessions together, we played music together. So yeah, these are really important things to do to keep the group together while we're in this isolation. But it is difficult, and everybody can't wait to just get back to the pitch.
Absolutely. We ourselves at PIFA Foundation have been trying to do all sorts of things to keep all our players physically and mentally motivated. So we too have been having online challenges. We've been having webinars all based on women-centric topics, trying to encourage women all over the world to share their knowledge with upcoming football players and coaches in India. Vicky, what can you tell us what the roadmap to becoming an elite player in England is?
An elite player. I think it's, I don't know if you've heard of the 10,000 hours of practice.
Yes.
It's so important you get your practice in, but not just any practice. It's like the perfect practice. You have to make sure that you're doing the right things consistently. Around all moments of the game, you've got to know all moments of the game. So there's 5 moments in the game. So it's in possession, out of possession, attack to defense, defense to attack, and set pieces. You have to be a master at all of those things. And it's practice. Get yourself in the most physical shape as possible, because that's so important, that you can give it 110% for the full 90 minutes, not just 110% for 70 minutes and then you burn out. Be that player that can last and keep the shirt on the pitch for 90 minutes. That's so important. So yeah, it's just practice. And I think what goes a long way in England is that you're an unselfish person. I know a lot of academies in the boys and the women's game is that you never ever cut corners. You can't cut corners. If the coach says you're doing 3 laps of the pitch, you do it and you don't cut those corners. You get right round the outside. If you're playing in a game at the end, you make sure you're running as fast as you can to win the ball back. You know, it's not all about in possession. They call in England, we call them luxury players that only come to life when they've got the ball at the feet. Well, when you don't have it, what do you look like when your team doesn't have the ball? Are you working hard to win it back, or are you being lazy and allowing your teammates to win it back? I think it's so important that you have those traits, that we haven't got the ball, I've got to hunt and get it back. Because Jurgen will say the intensity that our boys play at, our men, and when they lose it, you'll watch how they hunt to get the ball back. That's the same in every age group at the lads academy. So it's so important that you have those traits. You know, you have the quality in possession, but you also have to have the determination out of possession to win it back.
So 10,000 hours of the best practice sessions is what it takes to reach up there. Yeah. Fantastic. Does your team ever play with any of the boys' age groups?
Yes, they do. So, but only below under 16s. So below under 16s, our girls are allowed to play with boys. We've actually recruited one of our best players from a lads Grassroot team, Neve Charles. She's one of our most influential players. She's been to 2 World Cups. She's only the age of 20. She was one of the youngest players to play professionally in England. And she came through playing with lads at a young age. So it just goes to show that I think physically and the boys' game is quick. So it actually enhanced her motor skills when she stepped into the women's game. I do a lot of closed doors games with boys teams. So we keep this under wraps. So I call it a training game, so it doesn't draw too much attention. But my women's first team, they play against lads under 18s teams. And the reason why I do that is so that when we lose the ball, we have to be so quick on the transition to get back under the ball and put pressure on it, because lads can hit a 25 diag brilliantly, and they're so physical and play direct, so with their pace and power. So for us, it's testing us defensively when we lose it to quickly get under the ball and deal with that transition. So that's been a real good tool for us to use, for us to take to our league. Okay.
What is the overall development plan for women's football in the UK currently, and how was it like different, say, let's say 5 or 10 years ago?
Well, it's in a fantastic place at the moment. I've been very fortunate to see it develop and grow to where it is now. We have obviously the girls' grassroots level has grown right the way through the roof. I think in Liverpool in particular that there's an overspill. There's a grassroots girls team on every road. Like it's not hard to locate a girls' grassroots team. In some areas in England, may be not as much, but Liverpool in particular has a real big grassroots league. So that makes it easier for the pool of players to get into the elite game. So we use as an example, we run open trials every May, which we won't be doing this year just due to the pandemic. And we normally get to 200 to 300 girls that apply to come to our trials, mainly because of the badge, because the badge holds a lot of weight. And just because there's so many girls that actually do want to get to the next level, which is really pleasing to see. There's 32, they're called RTCs, so the Girls Centre of Excellence. There's 32 Girls Centre of Excellence. We have one. Obviously United have one. In our area, the Northwest is like a hotbed of clubs, because there's us, there's Blackburn, there's Everton, there's Man United, there's Man City. So all the best talent, it's like a who's going to sign them first. So yeah, and they train. So a typical training week for one of our youth players would be for the ages 12 to under 20, 12 to under 16s, they train 4 days a week with one game. And those 4 training sessions are 2 hours per training session. For the younger ones, so the 9s to the 11s, they train 3 days a week with one match day. And they're an hour and a half sessions because they're only younger. And then the under 21s, we have an academy now that we school them, where the lads are schooled at Rainhill, where our Liverpool lads are schooled. So they're in full-time training. Now I've selected 5 of those academy players that I am watching very closely, and I get them in to train with our first team to try and enhance their development from a youth player into professional player, which is the biggest gap that I see there is physically stepping up with against senior women. When you're a 16-year-old girl, that's the big difference that I've seen, and obviously the speed of play. So that's what our structure looks like in our youth setup, and it's the same in any of the other clubs as well, in how we operate.
So that's pretty clear about how girls transition from grassroots to the club. What is the transition from club to your national team?
So I was involved in the national setup. We have regional excellence centres. So we have one in the Northwest. So all the best players from those clubs will be selected and will go to a regional camp, and it'll be the same in the Northeast and further down south. And then from that gives the FA a real good opportunity to identify the best of the best and get them into a more elite environment, where there's a lot of pressure with players from outside their club. So socially it's challenging as well. And then those then get selected, and the first age group where it's competitive at England is England under 15s. So they'll go into the 15s, 16s, 17s, 18s, 19s, 20s. At age 16, that's when, I think 17 is when they'll start competing in Euros and World Cups. So that's a real big exposure for those international players to go and compete on a tournament platform where there's a lot of pressure involved, which is great for their development for when they step into the Women's Super League. We have 12 England players at our setup, in the youth setup. In my current first team squad, I have my captain has played in the GB Olympic squad in London. She's also played for the senior England squad for many years, but stopped due to a knee injury. I've got Mel Lawley. She's on standby a lot of the time for the England squad. And then I have a lot of youth England internationals. So Niamh Charles, who I spoke about before, she's only 20, but she's in the England under 21 squad and is consistently selected, as well as Rinzola Babajide and Amy Rogers. So those 3 always go. And then we've got Bo Kearns, who's in the England under 18 squad. So if you can see, there's quite a theme here that we do have a very young squad at Liverpool, which we are looking to strengthen for next season with more gamescraft and more experienced players to help those younger ones blossom.
That's amazing, Vicky. So basically, what I'm gaining over here is that at a country level, you'll start off at the under 15, and at club level, you'll start off at what age group?
At club level, you can start off at, we have an under 9s.
Okay. And what format do they play, the under 9s?
What for? They'll play 7-a-side. They'll play. Oh no, yeah, it's 7-a-side at the under nines. So from
Okay.
under nines up until under 11s, they'll play 7-a-side, and then it'll go 9-a-side, and then from 14s up, it'll be 11-a-side.
Okay, and so basically the under nines are the first that girls actually get into the game.
Yeah, no, to be honest, they have younger sessions. So we've used the LFC Foundation. They have girls sessions, and I used to run these sessions when I worked there for 5-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And those sessions are called Wildcats. They're actually funded by the FA. So Wildcats is a national session that's ran all up and down the country. Liverpool Foundation ran one, and there's 5-year-old girls that turn up. It's quite interesting, actually. When we set up this session for girls, 5-year-old girls in Anfield, they would turn up in like pink Hello Kitty tracksuits, and not that there's anything wrong with pink, but they would turn up with the glitter, and then within 2 weeks they all turned up in Liverpool like kits, with the socks, shorts, tops, where the dads, and they absolutely loved it. So they was just like, from 2 weeks of being to our sessions, they wanted to be more attached, and I guess it wasn't about fitting in, but they wanted to look the part. They wanted to look like a footballer and feel like, so it was that transition was quite interesting to see in Liverpool, that they've gone from wearing Hello Kitty tracksuits at the age of 4 to like within 2 weeks wearing the full Liverpool kit, which was brilliant for me to see them all in red.
Actually, that red Liverpool kit is very, very, it does something to you. It's exhilarating just to see someone in that red Liverpool
I
kit.
agree.
So I'm not surprised that those little 5-year-olds don't get it, and they just want to play the part of the team. Tell us, how important a role does a club play in development of like the girls' game?
I know it's so important. I think as a club, and this won't get me into trouble, this is true, we've fallen behind in terms of not supporting, but keeping up with the growth of the women's game. I'm actually quite interested to hear the growth of the women's game in India, and I'd love for you to share that with me. But our game grew so quick since the Women's World Cup in Canada. The game in England just grew. I mean, the job that the Lionesses did out there and the FA have done to push the women's game, it's just snowballed so quickly. And then since the Women's World Cup in France last summer, our club fell behind in terms of the demands that the women's game needed, because it's gone from like not really needing that much to get up and running to like, now we need a full backroom staff, we need an analyst, we need a doctor, we need this, all these things. And I think, the past couple of years, we fell a little bit short in what we should be offering. And now we are putting it right, which is so important. I have a great relationship. My line manager is Peter Moore, and I speak with him regular on how we can push this club forwards and aspire to build those blocks back up to where we need to be. And the same with Mike Gordon, one of our directors, is fantastic. He reaches out to me regular. So having good relationships with people within the club and the hierarchy is important. But it's also just as important to have a clear picture on how do we get to where we need to be to compete in one of the most competitive women's professional leagues in the world. And that's at the moment what we're doing to build the blocks to get us to where we need to be. It's a stressful task though, but I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tell me, what problems do the girls actually face into getting into grassroots football in England?
So the 14 plus is the national age of dropping out of sport, not just football, but sport in general. Few things for that is, girls go to high school and there's more pressure at high school from the pressures of boys and etc. And stereotyping that it's only boys play football, what you're doing, and those kind of things that can hinder people wanting to do what they want to do because of what they hear people say. So that can be a barrier. And also getting muddy and sweating. Sometimes some girls feel that that's not a cool look, but actually for me, it's one of the coolest looks, that to go out and go and work hard and keep fit and join your friends for a game of football. But I think those things obviously stop girls from, and I think as well, some girls just grow out of football naturally because they go shopping and cinema and other things rather than committing to a team sport. So I think the Premier League in particular, they had a women and girls project, and I was the project lead at Liverpool on this, that they put a lot of money nationally into try and growing and keeping girls from 14 plus within the game. I think high schools have a big responsibility of putting on girls only sessions, because that's another thing that I found. If I was to do just a football session, I'd get 1 or 2 girls, and you can imagine the rest of the participants would be boys. And that's fine, because then they're your tomboys girls that would attend. And I used to be a tomboy playing with the boys. But for a lot of girls, that's uncomfortable for them, and they wouldn't really get a kick of the ball. So to put on girls only sessions, that was a better way for us to boost the participants that attended in those sessions. And they felt comfortable and no one would laugh, and they felt included, and they could get touches of the ball, and it was a better feel for it. So I think that was one of the things to stop girls from falling out of the game, was making it girls only sessions.
Yeah, Vicky, I think that's really important, because there's lots of talk about gender neutrality in the game, but I feel it's better to have gender specific training, at least for the girls, to get them a little more confident into the game and probably build it up from there. Do you all have an inter-school league?
Yeah, so they do have school leagues. They have big school competitions for girls. I think it's tough for some schools, though, to get a full 11-a-side team. But again, that goes back to, are the school doing enough to get girls playing sport? Because if the PE teacher, if the head of PE of the girls section focuses on netball or hockey, then predominantly that PE department, that school is going to be really good at hockey and netball. So I always tried to influence schools to start up girls football teams, and we would send coaches out to schools around Liverpool to get those sessions going. And before they knew it, they'd have a big turnout of 18, 19 girls that wanted to train weekly. So it is really down to the schools to take ownership on whether they want to take part in those girls school leagues or not. But majority of the schools across Liverpool do that, which is good.
What do you have to say about an equal playing field that a lot of English clubs are trying to create compared to men's football? Equal opportunities, equal pay.
Okay, so you mean like football players, female football?
Yeah, female football players, or the game of football totally, like the same facilities, the same infrastructure.
I think it's important that female players should get treated like professionals, and to get treated like professionals, you've got to have professional resources, professional training facilities, professional staff, the best staff to give them the best medical, physical and technical support that they need to compete at the highest level. And if there's any of those areas that the club aren't providing, then it's a real important that they take ownership and fixing that. So yeah, it's important in terms of equal pay. I know this is a big thing that Rapinoe spoke about with the US women's national team. I think it's a different case for them. The US women's national team have won way more than the men. So I think that's a different situation than what we face in England. But I do think for us, the women's game salaries are increasing. The women have now full-time salary that they don't have to work alongside it. But further down the league, in the league below us in the championship, a lot of those players work a full-time job and they play football. In our league, everybody is full-time on salaries. Some salaries are right up at the top and some are right down the bottom, as you can imagine. Should the money be more? I guess I would say yes, because I think women, they sacrifice more, I would say, than men, because we can't just, my striker can't just go off and have a baby. She has to train 9 months, she has to be ready for the season. So that's a difficult one, where the male players can have babies whenever they want and still continue playing football. So I know my captain she's a mum. Sophie Bradley-Upland's a mum. She's an ambassador of joy. But she only really was able to have Macy due to a knee injury that put her out of the game. And it is so difficult for females to become mums and then continue being professional footballers or be a professional while they're having children. There's 2 now in the Women's Super League, Siobhan Chamberlain and Sophie Bradley-Upland. So they're obviously big role models that it can be done, but it's still difficult for when you're a top elite performer at the best of your game. Do you want to put that on hold to give birth to a child and then try and return again at the level that you were at? I think that's really challenging for females. So going back to that, I think females actually sacrifice more than male players do. But again, looking at the 2 comparisons of the women's professional league to the men's professional league, the Premier League creates so much money, which is one of the reasons I think it, obviously wants to return during this pandemic. So until we start generating our own money and become more sustainable as a women's sport, I think it's only right that, we can't compare our salaries to the male salaries yet.
Yeah, but y'all are quite happy with what is being offered to the players. It is competitive, I'm sure.
Oh yes, our league is one of the most competitive leagues in the world. The Women's Super League is, I think, the American League is probably one of the best, and I would say we're maybe second or third. We had since the Women's World Cup, we had a 20% increase of international players come into the Women's Super League. So that only shows that there's more and more players from around the world that the best players that actually want to come and play in England, which is good to see.
What is the structure of the league currently? Super is on top, and what are the levels underneath that?
Yeah, so it's the Women's Super League, then it's the Championship below that. The Championship has got 1 full-time team and the rest are all semi-professional. And then it's the English, the Premier League, the National League, I think it's called now actually, which is null and void at the moment. And then it works further down the pyramid. But in terms of professional elite, it's the Women's Super League and then it's the Championship.
Okay. Okay. And what is the total number of clubs that take part in the Super League and maybe two levels below that?
So we have 12 in the Women's Super League.
Okay.
And we're one of the 12. And then I think it's 13 in the Championship. But don't quote me on that. I'm going to have to check.
No worries. Yeah, okay. All right. So do most of the top Premier League clubs have a women's team?
No, not all of them. It's quite interesting actually. So within the Women's Super League, we have teams like Bristol that aren't in the Premier League, Reading that aren't in the Premier League. There's Birmingham, obviously Brighton are. We did have Yeovil last year, but they folded. So yes, Man United do, Man City do, Chelsea do, Tottenham do. They were new up this season. Obviously Liverpool do, Everton do, Brighton, Reading, Birmingham, Bristol. So not everybody does. I think when the Premier League takes over the Women's Super League, because that is on the cards, that might just push the women's game in another direction and encourage more clubs to really invest in their women's teams.
I think that would be very important because as it is, the Premier League already have so much of a reach all over the world. So just adding a women's team will definitely add to the popularity of the game and more participation in the game. Are your games telecast on TV?
Yeah, so our games will either be on Liverpool TV and they're on the FA iPlayer. So the FA have a Barclays iPlayer. There's an app that you can get on the App Store. And that gets quite a lot of views. I know that so we have one of the biggest fan bases across the world, Liverpool Football Club, as you know. Yes. We have a lot of fans that follow through our Liverpool TV and through the FA iPlayer. So yeah, and I think our average attendance is 1,200 at our games. When we played at Anfield, we had 23,000 plus, which was good. We will be looking to play there again twice next season, so we're hoping to increase that participant and hopefully almost fill at Anfield. I think that would be a real step forwards in the right direction for not just our club but for the women's game.
That's fantastic to hear, and I hope the fan base keeps growing and growing for the women's team as well. Vicky, tell me, in India, we are in the process of growing the game for women, and at all stages, there are a lot of roadblocks, if you may call them, in terms of not a proper roadmap. We are lacking focus in some areas. The grassroots structure needs to be strengthened. What would you advise players from India to how could we improve the situation from your personal experience of how you did it in UK?
I don't know. I think I've had many challenges as well, being in the game, and many people say I can't. I still have people saying I can't now. I've turned up to events and being the only female many a times, and I think you either stand up and brush off any fear and go through with it, because I think if you turn away from a challenge, you'll probably regret it more. And even if you take that challenge on board and it's not as successful as you wanted it to be, well, at least you know because you've tried. If you don't try, you'll never know. And I think when I was first offered the women's manager role, yes, I questioned whether I'd be good enough, because I've never managed at senior level before. And I'm in a position now where I'm getting criticised daily because of where we are in the league. Now, there's lots of reasons on why we are where we are in the league, and it's really tough to switch off from negative comments that happen from everywhere. But I think it's so important that you surround yourself with positive people. So that's number one. You have to have 3 or 4 positive people that really do support you and care about you and want to be there no matter what, through thick and thin. And you have to find a switch to use those negative comments to actually motivate you to do better. Almost like, I'll show you, I can do it. I know I can do it, I'll show you. So I've had quite a lot of abusive tweets actually this season, from all over the world of people, because we haven't got the results. The performances were good, by the way, but we just couldn't find 3 points. One of the reasons is we really need a goal scorer. That's where we were lacking. The amount of opportunities we created, we just couldn't finish them. And that's very frustrating to be in. And I got quite a lot of abuse on social media, and it was upsetting my family. Now, when I first saw it, it upset me. But then when I saw it upset my dad, that's when it really did bother me. But what I actually did is save all those negative tweets, and now I've got them put up, and I look at them, and they're in the office, and they motivate me to say, I'll prove you all wrong, and I will have the last laugh, because I won't stop working hard to make sure that I achieve the goals that I have set out, and I won't be derailed on my journey to success, because no negative troll on Twitter or any social media site is going to drag me down. And I think that's not just for females, that's for anybody that's ever come across negativity. When you're trying to reach a goal and somebody's telling you you're never going to reach it, or you're not good enough to reach it, you have to make sure you have that switch to go, I'll show you I can do it, and I will do it. So I think that's the important advice is, can you use negativity to motivate you and fuel your fire to go on and do one better?
More power to you, Vicky. I can assure you at least of an increased fan base from India. And I think when you win, you celebrate, and when you lose, you actually learn. And as long as you learn from all your mistakes and keep positive about it and keep going on, I think that's a major learning in itself.
Totally agree.
We have today with us one of the best Indian women football players. She is the #1 football player, and in fact, she is the first Indian player to get a contract with an international club. Her name is Baladevi, and she is playing for the Rangers team in Glasgow.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to just bring her on just for a few questions, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Hello, Bala. Hi, Bala. Can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah. I hear.
कैसे हो आप? आप हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं, इंग्लिश में भी बात कर सकते हैं, whatever you're comfortable in. How are you, Bala?
Good. I'm good. मैं ठीक हूँ.
पहले बात आपको बहुत बहुत कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट, आपका वीडियो आप ऑन कर सकते हैं? हाँ हाँ अभी आ गया वीडियो।
जी।
First of all, a
Hello.
big congratulations
Hello, hi.
to you from all of us in
Thank
India.
you.
We are so
Thank
very
you.
proud
Thank
of
you.
you, Bala. You are an inspiration to every single Indian player, and especially female Indian player. You are the first Indian who has made it to a club abroad. Tell us, थोड़े आपके words में हमको आपका journey के बारे में बताइए. Vicky, I'll translate that for you.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm not well speaking English, so I speak Hindi.
No problem, Bala. No problem. Absolutely fine. बोलिए बोलिए आपके जर्नी के बारे में थोड़ा बोलिए. आपने कहाँ से स्टार्ट किया?
So शुरुआत में बचपन मतलब छोटा से मैं बॉयज के साथ मैंने शुरुआत किया फुटबॉल. मेरा घर वालों सब फुटबॉल खेलते हैं. मेरा फादर एक्स फुटबॉलर है, बहुत अच्छा खेलते हैं, वो भी स्ट्राइकर खेलते हैं. तो ऐसा मैं बचपन से बॉयज के साथ मैंने शुरुआत किया. फिर क्लब, एक वुमेन्स क्लब का एक खुला हुआ था. ऐसा धीरे धीरे मेरा शुरुआत ऐसा हुआ था. एंड इन 2005 आई स्टार्टेड national team. So maybe 15-16 years I represent national team. And now recent.
और अभी
जी
अभी रेंजर्स में आपको कैसा लगता है? प्लेइंग एनवायरनमेंट कैसा है?
बहुत अच्छा लगा मुझे. ऐसा कभी ऐसा मौका नहीं मिला था. इन 2015 मुझे मालदीव्स लीग के खेलने के लिए मौका मिला था. उसमें खेलने के लिए मैं गया था, तो काफी मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा था. फिर वापस आके इंडिया में 2016 में इंडियन वुमेन्स लीग स्टार्ट किया था, तो मुझे बहुत खुशी लगी थी. फिर स्टेप बाय स्टेप अभी कंटिन्यू इंडियन वुमेन्स लीग स्टार्ट करे, तो काफी अच्छा हो रहा है. तो मुझे बहुत फिर अच्छा हुआ था. फिर यूरो कंट्री में 2018-19 ये पास्ट 2 इयर्स में हम लोगों ने बहुत सारे मैचेस खेला था. तो इसकी वजह से मैं रेंजर्स के साथ खेलने का मौका मिला था. तो मेरा बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस मिला था. यूरो कंट्री, स्पेन नेशनल टीम के साथ, स्पेन नेशनल अंडर 19 नेशनल टीम के साथ, स्पेनिश क्लब के साथ, लिबरल समथिंग सम ऑफ क्लब यूरो कंट्री. सो उसकी वजह से मेरा कॉन्फिडेंस ज्यादा हुआ था.
वेरी गुड. और आपको अभी लगता है कि आप रेंजर्स क्लब के साथ अच्छी तरह जम गए हैं
जी
कॉम्बिनेशन में?
फर्स्ट इन नवंबर 2019 नवंबर few days maybe 4-5 days मैंने ट्रायल किया था. तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा था, कि बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट लगा मुझे. तो फाइनली मुझे सिलेक्शन किया. 18 मंथ्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट रेंजर्स ने दिया है. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है कि और जो आने वाले बच्चों को भी कि हम लोग खेल सकता है. एवरी मतलब अदर्स दूसरा कंट्री, हम कोई भी कंट्री में हम खेल सकता है. सो अच्छा हुआ कि जितना भी यहाँ रेंजर्स के लड़कियां है, मुझे बहुत कम्युनिकेशन किया उन्होंने. तो बहुत अच्छा से बात किया उन्होंने, बहुत सपोर्ट किया.
बहुत अच्छा बाला, आप सचमुच सभी लोगों के लिए बहुत बड़ी इंस्पिरेशन हो. आपको विकी से कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना है? वो विकी मैडम लिवरपूल एफसी की कोच है. उनके लिए कोई क्वेश्चन है? मैं पूछ लूंगी उनके लिए, आपके लिए.
एक्चुअली अभी जस्ट फेसिंग मे बी February 3rd को मैं रेंजर्स में ज्वाइन किया था. 5th को ज्वाइन किया था. तो कंप्लीटली 1 मंथ उनके साथ मैंने ज्वाइन किया था. तो जो हमारा जो इंडियंस का प्लेइंग स्टाइल, यूरोप कंट्री का प्लेइंग स्टाइल, प्लेइंग ऑफ 11 थोड़ा डिफरेंट है. तो मैं धीरे धीरे इम्प्रूव करने के लिए उन लोगों के साथ कोशिश कर रही हूँ. तो हाउ टू इम्प्रूव माई सेल्फ.
Okay.
तो मैं बहुत कोशिश कर रही हूँ. या मैं बहुत कोशिश कर रही हूँ. और जितना भी यहाँ का गर्ल्स जो मेरा टीममेट्स और कोचेस बहुत सपोर्ट करते हैं. तो खुद को इम्प्रूव कैसे करना है. हाउ टू इम्प्रूव माई सेल्फ मोर.
Okay, Vicky.
Yeah.
So Bala basically just told us her history about how she started playing as a child. Her father was a football player. He's a striker. She's also a striker, and she's like one of the highest goal scorers. She scored 26 goals in one season of the Indian Women's League, which is like the highest club tournament in India. And she came for a trial to Rangers, after which she's been selected on an 18-month contract over there. Bala wants to ask you that there seems to be a little difference in the way the game is played in India compared to Europe. Okay, and she wants to know how she can improve her game as a striker to bring it up to the level of European standards, basically.
I think it goes back to we spoke about before about repetition. So if you want to be a striker, you've got to be able to finish from all different angles, both feet. If you can play off both feet, under pressure, unopposed, one-touch finishes. Can you finish in the air? Can you finish on the floor? Can you finish from the edge of the box? Can you finish when you're unbalanced? So those things come from training as much as you can and repetition of practicing your contact on the ball. I always say to my players that hitting wide's fine, but hitting over the bar is a sin, because at least if you're going wide, you're looking to place it. If you're shelling it over the bar, then it's not got finesse on it. So really concentrating on your point of contact on the ball, because at the end of the day, as a striker, you are judged on how many goals you score. And in the women's game and the men's game, they're the most expensive players. Strikers are, because they're the ones that win games. So I think for you, it's about repetition, and working hard. And I guess the more games you play, the more pictures you'll create in your head to have those goal scoring instincts of how to work in blind spots of defenders, and your timing of your movement to meet the ball as the ball arrives, to then hit it the right point of contact to find the back of the net. But strikers is a tough job, but it's a great job, because when you score the goals, the celebration's all on you.
I play also number 10 position.
That's a good position though. 10, goal scoring position. Definitely. Number 10. Yeah. So have you scored any goals at Glasgow?
Actually, only a few 3 matches. First match is 80 minutes I played, first match. Then second match is 60 minutes. So here is some weather is different. So yeah. I just
is your coach called Greg?
Sorry?
Is your coach called Greg?
Malky is Scotland, and the other one is Spanish.
Yes, Spanish.
Gregory.
Yeah, Gregory. Yeah, I know Greg very well. We we played a pre-season friendly against Glasgow Rangers before the started.
Okay,
it was good.
It's nice person.
Yeah, he is a nice person. He's a good guy. Football is a very small world. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. She always pushes me.
That's good. I will. I'll drop him a text in a minute and say I'm on Zoom to you.
Okay, fine.
So football makes the world small, even though you all are 3,000 miles, 3,000 kilometers away from us.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but yes, we are all united by football, and it's so amazing to be on this platform where everyone is working towards to develop this game for the girls. So Vicky, like I said, we need to make hundreds of more Baladevis in India, and we really want more and more girls to be able to go and play abroad, so that they can so that they can actually play with better players and improve their game, and also vice versa, come back and show the rest of the Indian teams how it is actually, how to bring up your standard in the game. Do you all have any foreign players in your team, Vicky?
I only one at the moment, Anka. She's from Germany. But previous years we have had quite a lot of foreign players. I think next season we may be recruiting a few foreign players, but that's confidential till that gets announced.
Yeah.
Don't want to get myself in trouble from announcing things on here. Yeah, so just one German player at the moment.
Okay, all right. And what do you think about including, what do you think should be the perfect combination of foreign versus local players in terms of development of the sport for your own country?
Yeah, I think there was concerns that that our league would turn like the Premier League and have lots of foreign players, which will obviously stop our own England players from developing through the ranks. So I don't know. I think the FA are looking at putting caps in place. So you have to have so many English players within your squad. But I think we have a good balance, because for the league to become the most competitive league, it has to have the top Norwegian player in it, the top Dutch female player in it. Miedemar at Arsenal is a fantastic goal scorer, and what a great role model to any young female watching the game that wants to be a goal scorer. I would say to Bella, if you want to watch a striker, definitely watch Miedemar at Arsenal, because she's one of the best that I've seen. So yeah, I think it's good to have a mixture of foreign players, because they all bring something different with their culture, the way that they play, and it obviously it enhances the level of competition. But it's still important that these young England internationals that are stepping into the Women's Super League do get minutes, so that, because the only way you're going to develop at senior level is by playing games, and you can't play games if there's loads of people ahead of you that are blocking that pathway of development.
So Vicky, what I would like to say over here is that's great advice for Bala also to continuously practice what she needs to do in her position, and as well as look at other very good strikers to try and emulate them in the game. Tell me one thing, for a Premier League player to become a role model, how important is it for her to be on social media? And what is your take on promoting the game through social media?
Yeah, I think if you're involved in the women's game at a high level, you do have a responsibility to grow it, because it's not at the level where the men's is. But what I will say with that, you will open yourself up to criticism. I seen the BBC and Sky Sports tweeted something about our league being terminated, and the amount of negative comments from, I would say, cavemen, dinosaurs that don't understand that women can play football, saying, get back into the kitchen, well, I'm glad it's terminated, no one wants to watch that game, etc., etc. They're so old. And the disappointing thing is that you'd be mortified. I'd be mortified if my dad was making comments like that. And those men that are commenting like that, if they have a daughter and their daughter wants to play for England one day, I'm sure that they'll soon change their tune. So I think it's important. Social media platform is the best way of promoting the women's game and growing it, and showcasing fantastic role models that we have now globally involved in women's football. But unfortunately, on the back of that, there's a small negative around. You are on a platform where you can get trolled by negative people.
I guess getting trolled and dealing with it and moving on is all a part of the game.
Yeah, I think like Jurgen Klopp's not on Twitter, so he chooses not to be on it. He doesn't need to grow his profile. He doesn't need to talk about what he's doing week in, week out. He's got the club to do that on their social media channels. And the men's game is at a different level. I think if the women's game was at the same level, I wouldn't be on social media, because I don't personally like sharing stuff with people about my personal life. But I also am very passionate about the women's game, and I really do want to promote our women's team in the positive way to our LFC fans, and also promote the women's game grow it onto another level. So it's a choice that managers make, and when you make it, you put yourself on a pedestal of negative comments if you do lose a game, and I'm willing to take those negative comments on board and brush them under the carpet and ignore them.
It's just going to make you stronger, Vicky. It's just
Absolutely.
going to make you
I've got real thick skin now. I'm tough.
What doesn't kill you will only make you stronger.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell me, what did it feel like when you were at Anfield with those 23,000 fans? I know being in Anfield is something else, especially if you're in the COP, and oh my God, what a feeling. It's an incredible feeling. Anyone who's not even a Liverpool fan can turn and become a Liverpool fan.
I totally agree with you. People can turn. 100%.
Absolutely. And I think I'm one of them who've actually turned. So I must be very honest about that. Yeah, the COP can have a mesmerizing effect on you. What did you feel like over there?
So I was really, really lucky to, obviously I work full time at the LFC Foundation, which is the club's official charity. And they do a charity match every year with the LFC Legends. And I got to coach the LFC Legends. So these are people as a child that I looked up to, like Steven Gerrard. So I got to coach Steven Gerrard. Ian Rush was in the team. It was just fantastic. Aldo was in there, Steve McManaman, McAteer, Risa, all these players that, you know, I've had them on posters on my bedroom wall and watched them on the TV as a young kid. And now I'm working, it was me and Ian Rush that managed the team, and we played against Real Madrid, and I stood in the technical area with Ian Rush while the lads were on the pitch for this charity game, which was a sold out stadium. And I knew that my family was up in the box. And when they started singing You Never Walk Alone, it was just like, for me, it's like a national anthem. It was the best feeling in the world to be stood next to Ian Rush and looking out onto those LFC legends on the pitch that I did sessions with. It was just an emotional feeling. So when Peter Moore said to me, we want the women to play at Anfield, oh my God, it was music to my ears, because of course we should, because other teams, women's teams, have played at their ground. Chelsea played their first opener at Stamford Bridge against Spurs, and it was like perfect. And what game to do it against Everton, our local rivals, in a derby. So it was fantastic for me, because I knew the players, my players that give so much towards the game, get to walk out on that beautiful carpet at Anfield while the crowd sing You Never Walk Alone. Wow, what an experience. So the day was just perfect. The only thing that was missing in the day is the result. My goalkeeper made a mistake and she threw the ball in the back of the net. Apart from that, we were outstanding. I don't know if you watched the game, but we played fantastic football. We just couldn't find the back of the net, which I did say previously has been the problem this season. But it was an incredible experience, and I think the stadium roared every time we made a pass. They roared every time we made a tackle. They roared every time we entered into the 25-yard, into the attacking third. It was just incredible. And the final whistle went, and I was heartbroken because of the result, 1-0, after creating so many opportunities. Our possession rate, we had like 72% possession. We had more entries into the final third. We had more shots, but we just weren't clinical on the day. And those marginal things can cost you a game, and they certainly cost us. So I was heartbroken, as well as the team, because we couldn't win on our home turf, especially against our rivals Everton, which is not acceptable. But the cop roared our players and applauded them after the final whistle. And that will be a memory that I'll never forget, and I'll forever be grateful for our Liverpool fans that stuck by us through the storm. And hopefully they'll stay with us next season when we get to a better level and hit another standard that we need to be reaching.
I've got goosebumps just hearing you, Vicky, talking about the COP and talking about Liverpool and talking about your women's team. All three things very, very close to my heart. Vicky, I have one of my players over here. Her name is Leah. Leah, are you on? Leah? I'm just trying to get Leah on. Leah, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? I don't think I can hear Leah. Is Hiba on? Hiba, are you there? Hiba? Yeah, I'll just unmute you. Hiba?
Yeah.
Any questions for Vicky?
I just wanted to know,
Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hiba. I play for PIFA. I also work at Star Sports. And I just wanted to know if you had any suggestions that you think that we could be able to apply in the footballing culture in India. Something that you could apply in India, football culture. In terms of like maybe like having a professional structure or like in individual capacities of like personal private clubs and stuff like that for women's football in India. Do you have any suggestions, or you think something that you guys do well and we could try and adopt? I think it's important to have maybe a female group of people that empower each other and fight to push things. You may have this, I don't know, but we have women in sport, women in football. We have powerful women in our country that have, Hope Powell's one of them, that have really pushed and challenged to get things like more money for girls, grassroots football and more sessions, etc. So I think maybe setting up a board that solely focus on making change in the women's game is important. And I'm forgive me, I'm not sure if you do have that or not, but I do think that's an important step forward to influence change, to help grow the game. But I think having qualified coaches is important, female coaches as well, because female coaches are still a minority in this country. So I'm not sure if you have many coaches in India, female coaches. So I think putting on coaching courses. I did do a lot of work with Premier Skills. I know Premier Skills have been out to India and delivered sessions. So I think getting as many female coaches will also inspire more young females to want to attend sessions. Not that I'm saying that male coaches can't coach or promote women's football, because they certainly can, because I know many outstanding male coaches that work in the women's game. But I do think there is a shortage globally of female coaches. So I think for a young girl to turn up to a session and see a older female coach, it is very good for them to be inspired that if I'm not going to make it as a footballer, I can also make it as a coach, or I could make it as a female physio or a female doctor, or all these things that are involved in the game that now females are seeing more and more in football. So I think to grow the game, let's have more female coaches, and let's have powerful boards of people that can fight for what women need to push the game to the next level.
Thanks, Vicky. Thank you, Hiba. Vicky, you'll be very happy to know that we've actually created an alliance. It's called the Indian Women's Football Alliance. Nice. And the PIFA Foundation has taken the initiative of gathering over 100,000 stakeholders involved with the women's game, who are going to work towards a target of promoting football to 10 million people by 2026.
That's fantastic.
Yes, and you're going to be a part of that, and we are going to be depending on you a lot for some inspiration.
Whatever you need, you just let me know.
I also have Leah, who's going to just ask you another question. Leah?
Hi. So yeah, this is pretty cool. I never thought I'd be talking to the coach of Liverpool WF.
Leah, put on your camera.
Yeah, sure. I'm really sweaty right now.
That's okay. You're a football player.
Okay, give me a second. I'll just tie up my hair at
least. You don't need to do your hair, it's fine.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, also I'm gonna make my cousin super jealous because he's like a die-hard Liverpool fan.
Yes, we know.
But my question is, and I'm sure you've got this many times. I've played football in the UK and for my university for 3 years, and I just wanted to know what you think was like the first step to improve women's football in India, or like in Mumbai specifically, and that is to get to a level as high as the UK or the US. What do you think is that that we as players, as coaches, as football federations, whatever it is, what do we need to do? Is it like get more funding in the tournaments, like in IWL, come up with more academies, or like train at grassroots level? Like what do you think that is? Like what's just that first step we really need to work on?
I think it's really hard for me to make an opinion, as I've never been to India, and obviously experience the great work that's already been done out there. But like I say, in England, there's always more work that you can do, because the women's game is playing catch up. So even as in England, we have a professional women's league with a great national team, but we still need to do more. So I'm sure your country still needs to do more. In terms of what I feel you need to do, it would be wrong for me to suggest, because I'm not obviously there. I think maybe you could share with me what you think is missing, as you live there and play the game there and see, because I don't know what your facilities like. I don't know what your competitive league's like, if there is a competitive league. How often do you get access to training, etc.? So these are things that I'm actually quite interested to find out about India. So do you want to share those things with me?
I mean, personally, I think it would always start at a grassroots level. I think that's the first place where we really need to start, because I mean, I think that's why the men's football is so much more advanced in terms of the tournaments and all of that are there. I know the women have a much higher ranking in the world rankings in football, but I mean, I know they get like a lot more preference in regards to coaching, facilities, all of those things from a younger age than the women, and that's why I think we're lacking a lot over there, where that disparity is between the men and women.
What's the competition like out there for female footballers? So when you play in have you got a league, a competitive league that you play in?
Yep.
And
so
there are lots of teams that play?
Yeah, so we have a it's called IWL. It's called the I League. We play. I mean, it only happens once a year, and it's a bit like staggered, which is a bit of which is another problem that we have. But in terms of commitment and participation and all of that, but I mean, it's definitely improving. This I League has brought a lot to women's football in India. It's like a national league that we have in different states, and then there's one team from each state qualifies, and then they play like a bunch of rounds and then knockout games and stuff, and then there's a semi-finals, finals, and there's one ultimate winner.
Okay, it's interesting. So you say is it once a year your tournaments, this national league?
One main national tournament once a year, but there's a lot more private leagues. There are local like interstate leagues as well. There's one called MDFA. There's like in Mumbai there's Bandra League. There are a lot, and there are more and more coming up. I think it just needs to get more organized. The numbers are increasing, but I think it just needs to get a lot more organized in terms of like the season
structure, calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's like a bit of corruption also going on as well on the side.
Okay, we won't.
Vicky, I'm going to be sending you one entire document on the state
please do.
I will, because it'll be a great reference for you as to what's happening. So there's good and there's bad. Football has changed a lot in the last 15 years that I have been involved with the women's game. Lots of positives, yet there are a lot of negatives also. We have to learn to deal with both of them and actually make the most of it. Think of only the positive and just keep going, like you rightfully mentioned earlier. One last question, Vicky. I know you need to go for your team yoga session. How many games do you think a girl needs to play in a year? Or how many games do girls usually play in the UK?
Oh gosh, loads. And even when there's a break in fixtures, we'll arrange friendlies. So I think you have to be playing the game once a week. Obviously, you'll have an off season, so you'll have 2 months off. then you'll be back to it and you'll play once a week. I think it's important because no matter what you do in training, and you can't replicate what a game feels like against an opposition. Even when we do 11v11 practices in our training ground, when you're playing against an opposition team and not the same badge, it's definitely got a different feel to it, and you can't recreate those pictures that occur in those moments that come about in the games that you play. So yeah, I think once a week is really important to get that game time in.
Once a week for 10 months, so that's about 40 games at least minimum. Yeah, so we're pretty far off from that, and we need to start working towards getting more games in for the players.
A lot of our grassroots women's teams, in the summer they have lots of tournaments arranged. I don't know if you ever came over to the UK and played in the Kiel Cup.
No, we haven't.
International. So a lot of female grassroots senior teams will go and play in that, like recreational teams. And tournament football is the best way of getting the amount of game time to push you on as a player. But I do think with that physically, it's very draining to play games back to back. Yeah,
Vicky. So I'd like to. Okay, I have one last question from Kunashni. Kunashni is a team player. Kuni, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Just introduce yourself and put your video on, please.
Sure.
Last question.
Hi, I'm not sure. Yeah, hi. So I'm a young sports psychologist, super passionate about football and women's football in India. So I wanted to ask, with the LFC team, do you guys have a sports psychologist working with the team? And if yes, then how often do they meet with them? And is it like a one-on-one session? And how do you work on the mental game of all the girls?
I think it's one of the most important parts of the game, sports psychologist. And I think especially in women's football as well. Especially when it's the time of the month, we naturally are more emotional. So we know exactly. We have a lot of studies and work in terms of the female menstrual cycle. We do have a sports psychologist. We utilise the sports psychologist at the men's first team at Melwood. So we have lots of consultations if we need to. I've done courses in sports psychology as well through the FA. When I was coming through my coaching pathway. So, and I've worked with sports psychologists at England, which I've gained quite a lot of experience and insight on how to put on team sessions to encourage team cohesion, team bonding, giving them ownership on overcoming diversity as a group, because when they cross that white line on game day, it's not me that's playing, it's them. So how do we give them that ownership? I think it's such an important part. We don't have one based on our site at the moment, but we will have. So we'll always signpost, and they'll go to Melwood and have sessions if they need that. And a lot of the times it's confidence or some things that are off the pitch that are affecting their performance. And what you find in elite sport is a lot of perfectionists. So one of my players, scores 3 goals and is more bothered about the pass that she misplaced than the 3 goals that she scored, because she's a perfectionist and everything has to be perfect for the full 90 minutes. And with that, sometimes it takes the enjoyment away from the game. So having the sports psychologist to help channel their mind on actually the positives rather than always being fixated on the negatives is so important. So you're an important part of football, your job, and there's plenty of opportunities in sport, elite sports for females, not just football, but hockey, cricket, athletics, etc., for sports psychologists to work with athletes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vicky. And with this, I'd like to round up, and I'm going to just take some few final words from Bala and then from you, and that will be the end of our session. Bala, hello. Bala, are you there? हाँ बाला, एंड में जरा सभी लोगों को कुछ शब्द बताइए कि आप कैसे सबको इनकरेज कर सकते हैं, और आपका वीडियो प्लीज चालू कीजिए.
Yes, yes.
Lovely, lovely.
Mm-hmm. So, pandemic, coronavirus सबका वर्ल्ड का है. So आप अच्छा से रहिए. अपना जो फिटनेस लेवल उसको अच्छा से मेंटेन करके रहिए. So wish you all the best. For thank you so much, Jepson.
ठीक है बाला, थैंक यू सो मच. आप सभी लोगों के लिए रोल मॉडल हैं और आप अच्छा खेलते रहिए. और always remember you have 1.3 billion people behind you. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're playing not only for yourself, but you're playing for 1.3 billion fans. All right. All the best, Bala. Over
Thank
to you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Vicky. Some final closing words, please.
No, I just want to thank you for having me on today. I've actually enjoyed hearing about what's football like in your country, as well as sharing what it's like in my country. And I think that's so powerful. It's so powerful for females to share what we're going through in our different countries. I think, you know, for me, grow the game as much. I absolutely love football, and we're still a minority in the game as women, and we need to grow it as much as we can. Whether that's getting more girls playing, getting more girls involved in coaching, making sure you have a strong alliance that's going to fight and push for the women's game to get to where it needs to be. And if you are an aspiring footballer that wants to reach the elite game, you have to practice. There's no shortcut to success. You have to work hard daily, week in, week out, and you have to watch the game. Watching the game is important to see those pictures so you know when to apply things at the right time during those games. But I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully one day I'll come across to India and meet some of you and see the great work that already goes on. And it's exciting times for India by the sounds of it, with the work that PIFA do it and some of the, you know, the rest of you that you do. And hopefully we'll see an Indian female player in the Women's Super League one day.
Fantastic. And taking from what you said earlier, I'm going to show you that we can do it. And you will definitely see an Indian player in the Super League. And thank you so much, Vicky. And all the best for your next season. And I'd also like to thank Nirvan Shah and Neil Shah, who have helped me on this webinar and always been standing behind me to always get everything organized. Also a special thank you to the LFC Foundation, who have permitted this lovely interaction with Vicky Jepson, and to our sponsors, Häfele and Spec. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Nirvan.
Bye.
I seen you in the corner.
He's always in the background.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Vicky. Thank you so much. Bye, Bala. Bye, girls. Leah, Hiba, Kunashni. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Tomorrow we have a session with Kunashni and Amrita Karkhanis on the importance psychology plays in women's football. Please do sign in, everybody, and please get as many players as possible to watch this session. Very important session, especially on how to cope being a player in the current situation of the pandemic. So yeah, please tell everyone to join in, and we will be sharing the link once again tomorrow. Tomorrow's session will be from 4 to 6 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All together now. All together now. All together now. 'Cause we are strong together. All together now. All together now. All together now. 'Cause we are strong together. Everybody get together this time. We can do it if we only try. together.